it's Angel Vane, and this is episode 87 of my author's diary. I am an author of crime thrillers for women, and every week I take you through the ups and downs that I go through as I try to write and publish new books. So don't forget to subscribe or follow me if you haven't done so already. And I want to wish everybody a happy Super Bowl Sunday. So I'm wearing my Super Bowl t-shirt from when we had the Super Bowl here in Houston. No, I did not attend the actual Super Bowl, but I made sure that I went around to the other festivities that the city had set up downtown, and I got a lot of Super Bowl gear. So I am rocking my Super Bowl t-shirt today for the Super Bowl, because otherwise I really don't care, because the two teams that are in the Super Bowl are like the two teams that I like the least. Yeah, it's like a lose-lose Super Bowl for me. Anyway, so this past week, I completed my own quick pass self-developmental editing of The Unexpected Hero. I pressed send on the email to send my document to the editor yesterday. It is now out of my hands. I need another set of eyes looking at the document to let me know, okay, is it okay? Or is there something else I need to work on? Is there something that I just can't see because I'm too close to it? I really need somebody else to look at the document now. So last week what I did was the book was at 99,105 words. Over the week, I didn't find any unnecessary subplots or anything like that, because everything is needed. I don't really do true subplots in my story. They're just complication offshoots to the main story, and I kind of need those complications because they end up coming in and impacting the story later on. So there wasn't any type of subplot that needed to be deleted, but there were some scenes where I actually showed information being disseminated between two individuals, and then later on that same information kind of got summarized in a later scene. So in those circumstances, I took out the scene where I actually showed the information being disseminated, because I'm like, well, it's just really an information exchange, right? So I can actually summarize that. I don't need to have a whole scene around that. And so those are the types of things that I was looking for as I was trying to find a way to cut the book down. So, drum roll. I cut the book down by 8,063 words. So now I'm sitting at 91,042 words, and I feel very proud of myself. I had wanted to cut 10,000 words, but I think 8,000 is sufficient. As I was going through doing this whole process, and I had kind of stepped away for a day, not too long, from the manuscript, but from the time when I had written the first part of the document, it had been weeks, right? So I was really rereading my own story after being away from that part of the story for a long time. And it's so amazing how when you start reading, as a reader, your own work, the pet phrases and the repetitive phrases that we authors tend to kind of sprinkle into our work, they just start jumping out at you. So that's what I'm talking about today. I know that the way I talk blends into my writing, into the narration, into the dialogue. So the first word is just. I just want to find out. I just thought that you should. And it's just is not needed. Is not needed. It is something that, I use in my normal speech, but seeing it written out in my novel so many times is it makes me cringe. And so even though I don't typically like to do any type of editing until after the editor has come back with the comments, because I don't know if I'm going to rewrite wholesale chapters, right? So you don't want to go and do a whole bunch of kind of copy editing and proof editing and all that kind of stuff before you send it to the editor. But let me tell you how many I had. 186 instances of the word just in my manuscript. Yeah, I went back through and probably deleted 97% of those. There were a few where I was kind of it was in dialogue, and I was okay, it's in dialogue. It's kind of helping to, emphasize something. And so I was okay with leaving a handful of them there. But most of those 186 you won't ever see them when the book is published. Now, the second word that, I use all the time when I'm talking, but it does not belong in my book, is even. And I use even, it's almost like an adjective to amp up a verb. For example, She didn't even call me. Instead of just saying she didn't call me, I'm really trying to emphasize that there's some frustration behind that. And so I put the even in front of the call. She didn't even call me. He didn't even tell me. And so in a book, I really just have to say he didn't tell, she didn't call. That even is not necessary. So let me tell you how many evens I had in my story. 199 evens in the story. Now, even it was a little bit trickier. Like I just couldn't wholesale just like delete all the evens, because there was a lot of times where I was like, the sentence was around even if something, something, something. Those are fine. I'm okay with having an even if. It's when the even is in front of a verb, and I put it there to try to amplify and denote a level of frustration behind the verb, the action of whatever that verb is. Those are the evens that needed to be eradicated from my manuscript. And I went through and I eradicated. And so that probably took away about 80% of the evens that are in the document. So those are the two that I just already went ahead and kind of made that change. And then the other thing that popped up, which I don't know, I'm scared to even go and check the other manuscripts to see if this was a kind of pet phrase for me in earlier books. But as I was reading, I noticed that I used the word slipped a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean 42 times in the book. And it's not in the sense of like, she slipped and fell, right? So it's beyond she slipped and fell. He slipped and fell, right? It's not that type of slip. It's using it to denote other things, like he slipped his hands in his pocket. She slipped her arms around his waist. He slipped the glasses from his eyes. She slipped into a t-shirt. He slipped his arms underneath the baby. So it's like, and I was like, why am I using slipped so much? Like it just, and then once I started noticing it, I couldn't unnotice it. I was like, that I need to kind of get rid of some of those slips because it's annoying me. But that one, I stopped myself from making any changes right now. I could be editing something that's going to end up on the cutting room floor, and that would be a colossal waste of time. So did not edit it for the slipped yet. The last thing that I found that was about to drive me bonkers, I used the sentence, Julian was quiet, Mina was quiet. Like a ridiculous amount of time, And I actually didn't. So I used that 15 times. And I know it doesn't seem like that's a whole lot across a 90,000 word book, but again, I couldn't unsee it. And it didn't feel like it was a strong enough way to even convey what the character was going through. It seemed like just, kind of a quick, toss away. Here, I'm gonna let you know that he's contemplating. Sometimes it's like, Omar was quiet, Julian was quiet, Mina was quiet, Sunny was quiet, Kendrick was quiet. Like everybody was quiet at some point in time. So yeah, I kind of like went through and deleted a bunch of those. Or I left them in, but I do want to go back and try to flesh out a better way of describing what they're going through, because that's just it seems so mundane, especially once I started noticing how much I was using it. So after I finished that part, I said, okay, all I have to do now is just hurry up and wait. I have plenty of stuff to do, but I'm so curious to see what someone else thinks about my story, because I've been living and breathing and, being with it for all this time. And I think it's phenomenal. Like really, like I was like, when I reread it this week, I was like, this story is good. Oh my goodness, this story. Like I was really excited about my own story. But again, sometimes you're too close. You can't see the forest for the trees. You can't see that like, oh, something doesn't make sense, right? So I'm really excited about getting an outsider's perspective to the story so that I can make sure that it is the best that it can be. And I'm going to resist doing any further editing until I hear back from my editors. So what's up next for me? Yeah, it's time to start plotting, outlining, brainstorming ideas for the holiday book of Julian and Mina that I'm going to be writing next. And I will fill you in on details of that next week. So if you want to continue to keep up with me and all the ups and downs that I go through as I try to write and publish new books, click the subscribe button. Then don't forget to click that little silver bell so you won't miss when I'm doing a video. And I will see you next time.